Well, good evening everyone. The time being 7 p.m, I declare this council meeting open. Did I say 7? Sorry, I thought I'd thought about things for too long. The time being 6 p.m, I declare this meeting open. Yeah, and I'd like to welcome everyone along and advise that the meeting will be digitally recorded in accordance with the council policy GOV.017, digital recording of council minutes. Meeting to record the meetings of council to assist in the preparation of minutes and to allow live streaming of council meetings. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Thank you. Record of attendance. Apologies, 1.2 on the agenda, Councillor Fairbrother. 1.3, leave of absence previously approved, nil. And I'd like to draw our attention to an addition, late report received. It will become 1.4 once we receive a motion to accept it onto the agenda tonight. And Mr. GM, I'd ask if you have anything to elaborate on that item, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point in time, I'd suggest to council they moves to consider moving a motion to accept a late report. So a late report can come onto the council agenda if it was not possible to include the matter on the agenda, if the matter is deemed as urgent and that you have received appropriate qualified advice. So in relation to this matter, council has received the Code of Conduct Panel Determination Report, which was received via email on Friday the 12th of August at 4:40 p.m. The council agenda was obviously released to the public on Wednesday the 10th of August, so therefore it could not be included in the agenda that was published on Wednesday. The determination report should be tabled at the first open meeting of council in which it's practicable to do so. Given the significant effect this matter is having on council and the heightened community attention, I consider it's in the best interest of all parties to table the report as soon as possible. Deferring the report or not choosing to add it as a late item on this agenda will place the report on the September council meeting, adding a further month of uncertainty and reputational risk. Further qualified advice above what is included in the late council report is not required. So from my perspective, I'm satisfied that the requirements of Section 8(6) of the Act have been met, and I'd like council to consider a motion to accept a late report onto the agenda.
I'd like to move that motion, please, Mr. Mayor.
Moved, Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
And I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Edwards. And that decision is item 1.4 on the agenda, and it will mean that, if accepted, that consideration will be given to item 4.5 on the night's agenda. So, any discussion? Any speakers? No discussion, no speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Item 2.1, confirmation of the minutes of our previous ordinary council meeting. There is a recommendation there, and any corrections to the minutes are to be agreed after we receive a mover and a seconder.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved, Deputy Mayor Dunyam.
I'll second that.
Seconded Councillor Edwards. I'd like to draw your attention to the General Manager's comments just after 2.1 there in this motion, and it clarifies what the agenda that the minutes of our previous meeting contain. Is there any questions in regard to the General Manager's comments? Okay, everyone happy with the minutes as they're read? Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Declarations of interest. Is there any councillors or staff tonight with an item on the agenda that they have an interest in they'd like to declare? I take that as nil all round. Item 4.1, announcements by the Mayor. I don't have any announcements to make. Item 4.2, the Mayor's communications, that the council note my communications during the last month. Would I have a mover and a seconder, please?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved, Deputy Mayor Dunyam, seconded Councillor Bramish. Any questions in regarding to those communications? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Reports by delegates nil received. That was 4.3. 4.4, notification of council workshops. There's a list of those there in the record of attendance.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunyam. Councillor Brammy seconded. Any questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We now come to item 4.5, which is the late item.
So moved as per the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion from Deputy Mayor Dunyam, seconded Councillor Edwards, and I would ask the GM for to fill us in on that item, please. Mr GM.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So just to clarify, that the Local Government Act requires that any person who receives a determination report from the Code of Conduct panel must keep that determination report confidential until the report is included within an item on the agenda for a meeting of the relevant council. So that matter has now been included on our agenda, and for the benefit of the public, that report, the determination report and subsequent report to council is now available on council's website from this moment as well.
Thank you, Mr GM.
If I can just continue for 1 second. I recognise that the members of the public haven't had the opportunity to review this report yet, and as I said, it is available for them to do so. But just to clarify, the Code of Conduct report has been handed down. The Code of Conduct panel has suspended Councillor Darren Fairbrother for a period of 3 months, effective from the day of the Waratah Wynyard Council meeting in which the report is included on the agenda. So that's from today. That is the maximum penalty available under the Code of Conduct panel legislation. And so from today, effective for the duration of the suspension, Councillor Fairbrother is suspended from exercising the functions and powers of a councillor under the Local Government Act.
Thanks very much, Mr GM. We have a mover and a seconder. Are there any questions in relation to this item on the agenda? I'll put the motion.
I think,
I didn't.
yeah, Mr Mayor, I think now that it's done, I think we all need to move on with our business of the day. I think it's done and dusted.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Any further speakers? Mover and the seconder wish to speak at all?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. I
Thank
think
you.
I'll
No worries.
endorse what Councillor Hyland has said, and we'll endeavour to continue on.
Thank you. Councillor Courtney.
I know that this is not an item that we want to give any more air to, but I'd just like to note that we've done, as the report shows, exactly what our community asked of us, and that the result has come back that Councillor Fairbrother has been stood down for 3 meetings. So we've done what the community have asked of us, and I'd just like that noted in that.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, I just reiterate, or whatever the word is, with everybody around the table, and yeah, we can all move on and get on with the proper council business now.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Public questions and statements. We go through there. That we've and the officers' responses, and for that's under section 5, and we then arrive at tonight's public questions without notice and public statements without notice, and I'll be a little while with this, but it goes like this. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with respect and integrity. We expect residents and ratepayers to apply the same standards in their dealings with Council. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I know the public will show consideration and courtesy in their comments. Further to that statement, I'd like to say a little more, and it goes like this. Further to my address to the gallery in regard to the conduct and content of questions and statements, I, as chairperson, will not tolerate any claims or statements of a defamatory nature or insulting, unfounded allegations to any person or personnel during this forum. Thank you. I'll now ask for it's now the opportunity of the gallery that have notified that they wish to make a statement or a question. And firstly, Mr. Ewington, would you like to address your statement, please?
How we going? Are you all right?
Only just, Ken, Mr. Ewington.
How's that?
Yeah, good.
Oh, good. Yeah. My topic tonight is trying to get see if the council can set up a website for weeds, because now we're starting to get more very variety of weeds, and a lot of people don't understand. As you as councillors have recognised last meeting that foxglove is a major issue too, and it's starting to spread around in the community. I would like to see the council develop a program on the website showing different various weeds, what they consist of, what they look like, so the community can see them, and if they see an outbreak of the weed, they don't know what it is, they can look up on the website. Also, I like to see a place where they can enter a photo of, if they see a weed on their property or nearby, they can be recorded and then put on a map of some defined, so we can get a good feeling of what's going on in that respect. Also, I like to see some better management of response from a ratepayer identifying weeds in the community, because I've personally having difficulty with getting quick response from the weed management section in containment of weeds. I have 3 months ago reported an outbreak of pampas grass in York Street, which is full seed, and at this stage no action's been taken, which is a concerning matter because it's right in town, and there's about 5-6 plants of large size plants which has nothing been done about it. I think the first thing they need to do is to go through and cut the heads off so they don't have the seed spreading. Also, in the past 12 months I've tackled issues of slender thistles on community farms. It takes a long time to get action on it. Now, a farmer can spray it in early when the plant is a good size, but last year it took 4 months. It went right through the flowering stage to developing the seeds before the problem was attacked, which is a concerning matter on my part, I feel, because this year we're going to have another major break again of slender thistles. Also, I feel the weeds management program team should also send a letter reminding the farmers who have had previous weeds on their property, like ragwort and slender thistles, to put a plan in program so they can attend to the problem quickly this year, because, as you know, Flowerdale, Gates Road, Peck's Road in Wynyard areas getting ragwort is still a major concern area, which I feel needs a little bit more effort to try and contain it, because ragwort is a bad weed. It spreads very profusely. In relation to foxglove, now you've recognised that foxglove could be a major issue, but I do feel you need to inform the community what the weed is about and what to tend with it, because I've identified to this meeting where the outbreaks are, but you need to attend to spraying it quickly before it gets the good weather comes along and goes to seed, goes ahead flower and then to seed, because the plant is the best attacked by spraying this time of the year, because it's in a cabbage form shape, but once it gets to a stem and starts flowering, that's when the problem starts up. So overall, I'm trying to say the council needs to put a bit more effort in putting information on websites and to educate people in the community of where the weeds are, some way where they can report if they see it, so it's identified on the website, and if they've got a better recording system. And I feel this is the thing that the council needs to look at for the future of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewington. Mr. Hutchinson, would you like to come forward and present your statement and questions, please?
Good evening. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's quite clear from the other end of the table what's happening, just around alleged defamatory comments that apparently I made at last meeting, but the mayor didn't pull me up at all at the last meeting. only the general manager managed to pull it up, apparently, by watching the video recording. So I'm just wondering who's actually running the meetings. Is it the mayor or is it the general manager? Because if you're going to suggest that I make defamatory statements in a public meeting,
Yep.
to ask a question, no right to ask a question.
Just, you'd like to continue with your statement?
Same with you.
Let's begin with starting this off again, and I don't believe that was necessary. And if you wish to continue with your statement, you're welcome.
Thank you. I'll respond to the general manager's email in due course, but I don't think it's really that of a priority right now. So I'd ask that you answer every question that I asked tonight.
You're entitled to 2 questions, and if you have sub-questions, they're regarded as extra questions. So just to remind you that we're not going through A, B, C, D, E and F. We are sticking to basic questions.
Okay, thanks for that clear and direct response, Mayor. I'm glad you are telling me what needs to happen. All right. Hardly anyone comes to these meetings and asks questions, so I don't understand why the public is only afforded 2 questions when basically it's only Ken and myself and maybe a couple other people that actually ask questions. I think there should be a designated time that people can ask questions, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, and whoever's here to ask those questions should be given that time. That's just my
There are
personal
regulations
opinion.
around our directions in regarding to council meetings, and more time you waste and that sort of thing, the less time you're given in that section.
Well, I'm just putting a suggestion out there. If councillors want to reflect on that, they can. My question is, at the January council meeting in 2021, I asked if this council keeps secrets in the community, to which, Mayor, you responded, no, it does not. Mayor, do you still stand by that statement?
That we don't keep secrets? No, we don't keep secrets.
Mayor Walsh, in your lifetime, have you ever taken out a restraining order on Darren Fairbrother? And if so, what was the duration of that restraining order and the reasoning for this?
No.
No, you haven't taken one out?
That's how you read it.
My question is for the General Manager. In 2019, did Council pay compensation requested by Darren Fairbrother to the sum of $20,000 for alleged damage to Councillor Fairbrother's Heppels Road property in Boat Harbour Beach?
Mr. GM, do you wish to answer that in this forum?
I can respond. What's been proposed is not accurate. Emergency works were obviously completed on Heppels Road property as part of landslip a number of years ago. As part of the emergency works, council pipework and so forth needed to be placed across the property, and as a result, appropriate compensation was afforded to the landowner.
So that is a yes.
No, the figures you're stating there are not correct.
So you did pay compensation to Darren Fairbrother?
In line with the relevant legislation, appropriate as would happen to any landowner in those circumstances.
Okay. All right, I asked a question with notice for this month's agenda. Given that apparently my questions are expired, I'll just have to phrase them as a statement.
Well, you won't. If they're a statement, you won't be receiving a question, an answer. There's a question.
Well, do I have 2 questions or 100 questions? I'm just wondering.
I think I clearly explained that to you earlier in the meeting.
Well, I'll ask them as questions, but if I get a response, well, good for me. All right, so in the past few months, it's stated in each agenda or meeting minutes that there have been nil leave of absence requests by councillors submitted to the council to be considered in the closed session council meeting. So between April and August, there was nil leave of absence requests received by council, but in the questions that I asked, in section 5.2.2 of tonight's agenda, the response was that there were no the response from a council officer was that details of the leave of absence requests are to be kept confidential. But in the July council meeting minutes, it states on page 103 that there was a leave of absence request and that there were decisions to be released to the councillors. So who was that leave of absence request from, and what was the decision by council in regards to this request?
Is this a continuation of your questions, or it is contained in your statement? Where are we heading here?
Well, do you want to answer it as a question or not? You can say no.
Mr. GM, do we reveal those details?
The response in the agenda to your questions clearly states that any approved leave of absence requests are recorded at the start of the agenda in the open session. So the public, if you like, are aware of the dates in which a councillor has been afforded leave of absence.
Okay, so in tonight's agenda in 1.3, there's no approved leave of absence request. So we're assuming that this has been rejected. Given that the mayor stated that that you guys don't keep secrets from the public, I'm just curious as to know why can't we know who that leave of absence request was from? We don't need to know the details. I respect the confidentiality of the details, but who was the request from, and what was the decision by council, when it's pretty obvious what the decision by council was if you read between the lines.
Through Mr. Mayor, and perhaps that's the issue, Mr. Hutchison. You continue to read between the lines and do that incorrectly.
Well, I would say the same to you when you send me emails saying that I make defamatory allegations, but that's just my point of view, so we can agree to disagree on that one.
We're not here to argue with you, Mr. Hutchison. We're here to explain to you what we are doing is right.
Okay, you can say it's right, but what I'm saying is you're not telling me the questions that are asked because you do keep secrets from the public. You don't want me, so that's trouble.
You got intentions to continue with your statement?
All right. What is the current status of the Wynyard Sports Precinct plan?
Through Mr. Mayor, the Wynyard Sports Precinct plan has been adopted and is currently being actioned.
All right, so in regards to that, has council received written confirmation from the Department of Education or the Minister for Education that gives council the go-ahead to begin steps towards progressing the plan at Wynyard High School on Department of Education owned land that it adopted earlier this year?
Through Mr. Mayor, the discussions with the Department of Education and specifically through the Wynyard High School commenced some time ago and continued to be undertaken as we speak. The operational requirements of any proposed project, the necessary approvals, formal agreements, all those matters are considered as part of those discussions, and those discussions are continuing.
Thanks, Mr. Jam.
So there's written confirmation from the Department of Education or the high school to say this plan can progress?
There's, through Mr. Mayor, I couldn't confirm the nature of anything in writing, so I'd need to take that question on notice.
So does the council have a memorandum of understanding with the high school or Department of Education in regards to the precinct plan?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that question on notice.
Thank you. And will council or Department of Education staff be ultimately responsible for the maintenance of facilities developed on the Wynyard High grounds, or will it be a shared responsibility?
Through Mr. Mayor, as indicated in my initial response, that is part of the negotiations and discussions that are being undertaken at the moment.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public questions and statements section. We now move to 6 on the pending authority items, and 6.1 is for public questions without notice relating to planning matters, and nil have been received. 6.2 is public statements relating to planning matters, and nil have been received. And at 6:25, we now will move into the planning section of our agenda. And item 6.3 is the first one, and there is a recommendation there, people.
So
Councillor-
moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunya moved on the boardwalk.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any discussion?
Just a brief comment, please, Mr Mayor. There is only one representation for this development application. This identifies that people do park or drive on parts of the footpath. Council has advised that this behaviour is a police matter. Also, this representative has asked for lighting on this boardwalk pathway, but we have also advised that lighting has not been included in the development application. It should be noted that replacement of this boardwalk in particular is necessary, as there have been reports of people slipping on the boardwalk, particularly during wet weather. So I ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Oh, Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, I'd just like to support the motion, and I guess it does, for a safety reason, need redoing, and I believe that this will be a good outcome for everybody on frosty days.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Highland.
Yeah, just one comment. I suppose the good thing about it is it's we are finally making the start on the coastal pathway, even if we are only widening it. And it's given that we, along with Burnie, were nearly the first ones to receive funding, we're now the last to complete the job, but we have had a few other things to go with it, and that'll be the Somerset Bridge and all that area around there. So it'll certainly be worth the wait, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 6.4 is storage units at Rag Street in Somerset. The recommendation there.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Dunya moved.
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards seconded. Any speakers for or against?
Yes, the establishment of this storage facility with the installation of containers is obviously development of the last vacant piece of land in the CBD of Somerset. This vacant piece of land has been something of an eyesore, with a very dilapidated building or house seen primarily from the highway. The establishment of these storage units could be considered a light industrial development, which is in keeping with other business operations on the northern side of this strip of Rag Street. So I do ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? Councillor Highland.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just there's one representation, and in regard to the view, but the permitted height is 10 metres, and the buildings, I believe, are 2.4. So I don't think they're going to protrude into the skylight much, Mr Mayor. And also, they made mention of cars being parked in front of their house on the street. Well, I don't know, my experience with storage sheds is that the storage shed owners are the only ones that usually operate the sheds, and they're off the street to get their stuff or put stuff in them. So I don't think there'll be any extra cars at all on the front of the footpath.
Okay.
No, a good decision on a vacant bit of land.
Okay. Any further speakers? I'll put them up. Councillor Bramish.
Sorry, Mayor.
You're right.
I guess 20 years ago, if you said to me about storage sheds, I would have probably thought, but I just can't believe how popular they are now. There's everywhere you look, there's storage sheds, which is great, and most of them are full all the time. So I support the motion.
Cool. Any further speakers before I put the motion? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 6.5. Stage development located at 28 Calder Road, Wynyard. Warehouse for potato storage. The recommendation there, councillors?
Yeah, so moved.
Councillor Highland moved.
Yeah, I'll second that, Mayor.
Seconded Councillor Bramish. Any discussion? Any speakers?
Oh, Mr Mayor, just the fact there's one already there it's actually on the Stennings Road end, so it'll be another a copy of the same, and a lot more storage for our potatoes, and I don't see any real issues with it at all, Mr Mayor. And given there's going to be some road works at the end of Stennings Road down the track, so it'll help the truck movement, I would suggest. No worries, I'd like councillors to support this.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, no, I believe this is a good development for our area. As Councillor Holland said, there's already one there, and to have another one built there, I reckon that's a pretty good feather in our cap here in Wynyard.
Okay, any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That concludes our planning section, concluded at 6:30. Okay, we're on matters raised by councillors, 7.1 all the way through there to 7.13, and it brings us to 7.2, which is councillors' questions received in writing. Nil received. It's 7.3, councillors' questions without notice. Is that section of the agenda now, councillors? Councillor Courtney?
Yeah, just a quick question. In response to 7.1.2, where I've asked for a public apology request from Ken Dorsey, I note that the response has been that there was an apology made in the Advocate, and then separately, I gave the opportunity for Councillor Bradley to respond to the same sort of commentary, and that has been noted that it was a private response. It was a public question. Does that need to go on the agenda because it was a public question? Should it not be a public response?
I could have to ask some technical advice on that one, Councillor Courtney. Mr. GM, or have you a response to that at this moment?
Through Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, Councillor Courtney, you asked Councillor Bradley if she wished to apologise. She has replied to you through her own means. You're aware of her position in that regard, and ultimately that would be a decision for Councillor Bradley whether or not she wishes to make public her position in that regard or not.
So a follow-up question. I'm just asking, as the commentary was made public, the defamatory comments were public, should the response to an apology not be as public as the defamatory comments?
Through Mr. Mayor, the question was asked of Councillor Bradley whether or not she wishes to apologise. The nature of her reply and the manner in which she does it, I believe, is her decision.
Thank you, Mr. GM. Any further councillors' questions without notice? Nil. I'll move on to notices of motions. There's nil received. Item 9.1, reports of officers and committees. 9.1, the tourism plan. There's a recommendation there that council note the feedback from the public consultation period and adopt the tourism plan 22 to 25.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second that.
Deputy Mayor Doniam and Councillor Edwards. Seconded. Any comment? Any speakers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This plan is underpinned by past achievements over the past decade of tourism planning and provides strong key strategic priorities for this council over the next 5 years of tourism planning and actions. The draft Tourism Plan 2022 to 25 was released for public comment and feedback in July 2022. There were 3 submissions made to council during that time, and no changes were made to the draft plan as a result of that feedback provided. This plan has considered the potential impacts and opportunities from emerging industry trends, and I ask that the council support the motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Doniam. Any further speakers? Councillor Highland.
I'll just endorse what the Deputy Mayor has said, and probably for what it's worth, throw in again that our tourism group are really leading the way on the northwest coast, I believe. And the fact now that we have the best visitor information centre in Australia says a lot for what's really happening in the area, and I think we'll reap the rewards over this summer with visitor numbers. I think they'll go through the roof. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.2 on the agenda, the Community Activation Grants, Round 1. There is a recommendation there and a listing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel. Seconded Councillor Highland. And any questions, any statements, any speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This round of grants supports a diverse selection of events and activities, all of which encourage and enhance social and cultural wellbeing. All submissions listed in this motion are required to produce evidence of expenditure prior to funds being dispersed, and I do need to bring to the attention that these grants were not talked about or discussed at a discussion, that they have been brought straight from the recommendations by the committee to the council, and that is because the next two meetings, correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Bradley, the next two meetings will be in caretaker mode and we're unable to make those decisions. So it has been thoroughly researched, it has been thoroughly endorsed by the committee to make sure that everything is above board. So further to what I said previously, all organisations must complete a grant acquittal at the end of the project detailing how funds were used, together with details of outcomes of the relevant projects. So it's really important that we understand that there is a lot of paperwork required when anyone asks for funding, community funding from the council, and they are asked to demonstrate that they have used it appropriately, and that the event does give social benefit to the community. So I do ask the councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daniel. Councillor Highland, you wish to speak? Oh, you're right. And no, Councillor Bramish.
Thank you. I did have a couple of queries regarding a couple of items in there, and I believe that I'm happy enough with that now. I guess I understand after this meeting we're going to be in caretaker mode. Do we still have to be in caretaker mode if they're budgeted items, this would be a budgeted item? Does that still mean we're in caretaker mode for that? I don't. If
through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is the caretaker policy that council adopted specifically excluded the ability to provide community groups with grants throughout that caretaker period. So whilst they are budgeted for, they're excluded from that decision making during that period.
Thank you, Mrs. Searle.
happy with that, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.3 is the Somerset Foreshore Traffic Impact Assessment. And there's a recommendation there, people, councillors, and that we noted.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel. Councillor Brammy seconded. Any questions? Any speakers?
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, it should be noted that each stage of the development of the all-ability playground in Anzac Park strictly adheres to road safety objectives, including parking. Also, stage 2 is aligned with the coastal pathway development, as referred to earlier by Councillor Highland. And I do ask, you were referring to the coastal pathway. I do ask that councillors support this motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put them. Councillor Highland.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's obviously a lot of tidy up work around there, and just so we can get a feel for when this park opens, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that I think it's going to be a little bit embarrassing when the families start to come to the park, and we've got to sort of accommodate them, which is a good thing, and we'll certainly work around that, but this is a bit of a start to that process, I feel, so I'd like councillors to support it.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We move now to 9.4 there on the agenda, which is the Yolla public toilet location.
So moved.
Move Councillor Hyland.
Second that, Mayor.
Councillor Bramish. Seconded. Any speakers?
Mr Mayor, yeah, we've been round and round the block just to try and accommodate a public toilet in Yolla, and with not much success, but we think if we can work in with the fire department, it's just on the north side of the township, on the southern side of the township.
Yep.
And there is plenty of turning room there, and it's within walking distance of the general store and the local tavern. So I think we might have finally found a home for it.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Bramish.
Yeah, it's been a long, hard road for a toilet, hasn't it?
Yes.
But, yeah, righto. Where do I go now? No, look, and look, I encourage the community out there, if anyone's listening, to come up with an idea where they might think that we haven't explored. Hello, what's going on over there? But I guess this is a start, and hopefully something can come of the fire station. But if the community's got something better, please suggest. So I support the motion.
Councillor Bramish. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. That was item 9.4. We move to 9.5, which is the Quarterly Information Report, Infrastructure and Development Services. And there's a recommendation there that we note the corporate Quarterly Information Report of the Infrastructure and Development Service Department as at the 30th of July 22.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Second, Mr Mayor.
Moved Deputy Mayor Dunyam, seconded Councillor Hyland. Any speakers, any questions?
Oh yes, Mr Mayor.
There's a lot there.
There is. There's a real lot of good, solid information. Probably the page that sort of struck me, page 90, where and why, and it's probably a good reason why this municipality is really doing so well with the jobs that we're actually got on the go, the jobs that are coming up, and there's a whole list there of all the jobs and whether they've been tendered, the tenders are gone out, whether they've been awarded, and it wasn't that long ago that we put I remember a bridge tender came across the table. Well, one of those bridges here, Bassett's Road, is constructed. And the appropriate photos are in the agenda, which is very impressive, I thought. Yeah, it's a huge job. I wasn't that long ago, I was in the Somerset basketball yard. The lines weren't painted then, but it looks, the photos, miraculous job, just what little things do. Yeah, so, no, very good report, and congratulations to those who had input.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. Yeah, Councillor Bramish.
Sorry, I'm a bit slow tonight, Mayor.
You're right, I'm a bit quick perhaps.
Yeah, well, you could. Well, just wondering when 301 Pages Road's going to go away, if it ever will go away. No update on that, Mr. GM?
No update at this stage, Councillor Bramich. Yeah, we're still waiting for a verdict to be delivered.
Thank you.
Thank you both of you. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.6, the award of a contract for Park Street realignment and the car park works. There, a recommendation there for the improvements at that intersection.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
I'll second that.
Sorry, you go.
Councillor Edwards, second. Okay. And speakers for the motion or any questions?
Yeah, just a couple of words, Mr Mayor. It's going to end up rather a large project, although the road works hopefully will be tidied up somewhere around Christmas. I think we're putting in a short street off Park Street and then doing the car park works for what's going to be the new upgraded IGA store. Yeah. So it's certainly going to be a huge benefit for the community and the people, and congratulations to the owners, long-term owners, done a tremendous job in the community and employ a lot of young people in that shop, so certainly a worthy project. Mr Mayor.
Yeah. Councillor, thank you, Councillor Hyland. Deputy Mayor Daniel, would you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'd just like to say one thing, and that is, Councillor Edwards. I'd just like to say one thing, and the foresight of the acquisition of that block of land some time back has been a goal kicked for this council. Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
I just want to say, yeah, it's been like 3.5 years in my time since this has been going on, and I'm sure it's been a long time in the making before that. It's exciting about the safety aspects around all the roads and that go into that intersection, and I know it's taken a lot of I's and T's before we've got it to this time, so it's good.
Thank you. Any further speakers? I'll put Councillor Bramish.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I'm going to support the motion. I reckon it's a brilliant idea for the community, for the owners of the IGA, and for the motorists. It's going to make it a lot safer for them coming in now them intersections. I reckon we're pretty lucky here in Wynyard for what's happening and how things are. So I urge councillors to support the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Bramish. I'd just like to add further to it. I was around when the high school was built and one of the first students at the high school, and it's always been playing roulette there with traffic for the last, a while since I went to school, and it's been ongoing, a worry, for pedestrians and traffic and school buses, and this is a huge result. It's going to be a great asset to safety.
Be back in the horse and cart days, Mayor.
Yeah, they weren't travelling real fast then. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.7, the Capital Works budget amendments there for 22-23. There's some adjustments to be made, and there is the detail of those, what has to be done.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. Anyone need any explanation to what we've workshopped in the past on this matter?
If I could just make a comment, please, Mr Mayor. The recommendation for this motion is in 3 parts. The report identifies that when Council adopted the annual plan and budget estimates on the 20th of June this year, the estimated capital works expenditure for projects that are ongoing was not known with certainty. This required a revision of estimates to recognise the actual expenditure for projects currently in progress as at the 30th of June this year, and the impact of unspent funds on the new financial year. Details of amendments are listed on page 112 and 113.
Yep.
It is clear that if all 3 parts are adopted, the revised estimates will supersede those previously adopted as part of the annual plan and budget, and the revised budgeted cash as at the 30th of June 2023 is an increase of $241,306, a positive budget outcome. So I ask councillors to support this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Item 9.8, the Senior Management Report.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Daniel moved. Councillor Hyland seconded. Anyone need any questions answered?
I have a question through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager regarding your meeting with representatives of Creative Paper to discuss its future in the region. What does Creative Paper propose to do in our region in the foreseeable future? If you could give us some details, thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, essentially Creative Paper, the entity that was formerly in Burnie in the Makers Workshop, is, I guess, actively looking to re-establish itself somewhere within the region. So the nature of the discussions has primarily been around where that could possibly be, and exploring options, whether that be Wynyard, whether that be elsewhere within this municipality or others. But essentially that's been the basis of the discussion around them trying to re-establish themselves and find a new home.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr GM. Any further questions in relation to the Senior Management Report? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. 9.9.1. 9.9 minutes of other bodies and committees, and 9.9.1 the audit panel annual report.
I'll
And-
move that motion.
Councillor Edwards
I'll
moved.
second that, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam seconded. A recommendation there that, so away we go. Any questions or any speakers? No? I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Yeah, so we move on to 10, which is matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting, and that the council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam and Councillor Bramish. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. And item 11, that the council resolves by an absolute majority to go into the closed meeting to consider the following matters at 6:50.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Duniam moved and Councillor Hyland seconded. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you everyone in the gallery for your attendance.